Powered by Reb Media in partnership with TSN, it is season 6 of the Ray and Dregs Hockey Podcast, presented by our title sponsor, Canadian Club Whiskey, who added a beautiful drink to the amazing invitation series. Ray, it's the Canadian Club Classic 18-year-old high proof, full-bodied whiskey. The aromas of caramel, you've got toffee, you've got a spicy vanilla flavor, you've got rich oak, and then that butterscotch finish, which is so smooth. That is the Canadian Club Classic 18-year-old high proof. And I know that you were waiting eagerly all weekend for the report on the goat yoga, which took place.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, when Zuby sent me the video of what goat yoga looks like,
yeah,
like I am like, what in creation? Like, I guess everybody does their thing, like, right? You do your thing, you do like, like everybody, everybody has something they enjoy, but why not just jump in a pig pen and slop around in the mud? Like, what is going on there?
Well, so you're right. Chris Sabunia sent us the video because we were rank amateurs, had no real idea what was going on. So
Thank God I'm a rank amateur.
Yeah, I'm with you. So Holly and her niece Erin and great niece Tori, went and participated, but it wasn't the full-on goat yoga because there was only 3 of them. I think it was like a toned-down version. So they got to play with baby goats. That's what they did.
Oh well, baby goats are kind of cute, I guess.
Yeah, they were crawling all over each other and that kind of stuff. So.
The video we saw, like, ridiculous. Like, come on. I don't know, man. No chance.
Well, we've got Ryan Richog joining us for Ask Ray Dregs Anything later in the show, and I'm curious whether there'll be any goat yoga related questions. Hopefully not, because we have no idea other than the video that we watched.
No.
So.
No.
Yeah. Hey, so we're past Halloween. We've got U.S. Thanksgiving coming up. Where are you and Cammie and the family in the whole switching of the seasons and prepping for, the holidays? Because this weekend, especially in my neighborhood, people are putting up their Christmas lights, they're decorating. You've got the full blow-up Santas and all the shenanigans and nonsense. And I'm seeing Christmas trees as I drive through the neighborhood and what it feels early to me. I don't know. I'm a December 1st guy, I think, for Christmas.
Well, we've got our lights are up, and I love coming home when the lights are on. Like I don't know, I just love it. I mean, I guess when you're inside, what the hell's the difference, right? You don't see them anyway. Yeah. But I like driving up to the house when they're on. We ordered from the Scouts. We pick up our Christmas tree, I think, on the 26th.
Oh, it's a real tree.
Oh yeah. Oh, I love the smell. I love the smell. Yeah. We had a artificial one for a whole bunch of years, and then we decided to go back, and we really like it. And of course, you got to decorate. Now we got a 10-month-old grandson that's around, right? Luca is here, so we got to watch the little ornaments, I guess, this year, or the little bugger will pull them off and fire them around the floor. Yeah, we've all been through that. But I love Christmas. Cammie loves it. She
that's nice.
Loves Christmas. So we're, nobody could ever beat my dad up with the Christmas lights. He put them up one year. They stayed up, I think, 7 years, 12 months of the year. He goes, there we are. First one up again this year. He'd go and plug them in.
See,
no way they ever came off.
Yeah, it's always work smarter, not harder, right? So that's what I've done. I've gone to the clear Christmas light. So it's only one color. And so you don't notice them through the remainder of the year, but it looks really nice around Christmas time. So they never.
You know how we had the clear lights sometimes is way back in the 70s, I guess, but the paint would chip off the light, and so some were clear. That's how we got them. After 4 years, it just fell off, man.
All right. Well, let's get into headlines, Ray, brought to you by Tim Hortons. The second annual Holiday Smile Cookie is here until November 24th. It's important to note that 100% of proceeds donated to local charities and community groups, including Tim Hortons Foundation camps. Last year, Ray, Tim's guests helped raise almost $10 million, $9.8 million. Incredible. So support your community this holiday season with the purchase of a delicious white chocolate sugar cookie. They've got the red and the green sprinkles, and of course, hand decorated with a white icing smiling face. Yep. It's a wonderful time of year. Second annual holiday smile cookie campaign well underway. So we go from good to bad. All right. Tim Hortons smile cookies. That's the good. That's obvious. The bad is what we saw Saturday. Toronto hosting the Edmonton Oilers. Relatively early in the hockey game, Ryan Reaves just lowers the boom on Darnell Nurse in an area of the ice that Ken Hitchcock once called Death Valley, right? Just below that goal line where the defenseman is scooting around behind the net and just gets labeled, in this case, by Reaves. Did not get the in-person hearing, which surprised some. There was a hearing. He suspended 5 games. An educated guess by me going into the hearing was 4 games. 2 games. And look, you know how I'll go about my business. I've got my sources here, there, and everywhere. So the feeling was 2 games for the hit, 1 game for the injury, and 1 game for the history of Ryan Reaves. I'm not offended by 5 games. But what do you think? Too little? Too much? What do you think?
No, I'm not offended by it in the least. If Tanner Jeannot got 3 games, which he did for hitting Brock Besser, in a far more slow-moving play, I didn't think there was any possibility it wasn't less than that. Like, it had to be more because of the speed involved. I don't know. I think Jeannot should have got more than 3 games. I mean, it was a slow-moving play. He hit him directly in the head. Jeannot scored the other night. Besser's still out of the Canucks lineup. And so you can imagine that doesn't go over very well here in Vancouver. So the Reaves hit, I thought he would get an in-person hearing. Now, in-person doesn't mean, I think we got to be clear, like that does not mean more than 5. It means the option to suspend more than 5. And so that's what I thought Dregsy was going to get. But 5 felt like the number for me. When you're making that hit, like I know people people always seem to talk about what the guy with the puck was doing. And yes, Nurse had his head down, and yes, that makes him vulnerable to a big hit, 100%. As he's going around the net, he kind of looks like he loses the puck a smidge in his feet, takes a peek at it, and then he had no awareness that he was going to get hit like that.
Yeah.
But that being said, it doesn't matter. Like Reaves's target, because of the angle that he's taking, is the width of Nurse's shoulders. And he's turned, right? It's just the square on shoulder. He doesn't have full body to hit. So by making that hit, Reaves is making himself really vulnerable to this result. And so this is entirely, in my mind, it's entirely on Reaves. And he got whacked, and he should get whacked.
Yeah, so many other options, right? He certainly had enough time to take a different path and make the contact that he should have made, shoulder to shoulder, right?
I am often wondered why, or have often wondered when a hit like this is available, if the hitter has the discipline to have his stick on or near the ice, you can't elevate your hit. Right. So if Reaves goes same speed, same angle, with his stick on the ice, he hits Nurse in the shoulder. But because, he's going full tilt and he wants to deliver this thing, right? And so that's the risk he takes. And now we'll see how long Nurse is out. But always the argument with a play like this is that the guy that gets hit is going to be out much longer than the guy that delivered it. And we're seeing that, as I mentioned, in Vancouver. But 5 games, I don't in the least have a problem with that. If it would have been more, I wouldn't have had a problem with that either.
Well, if there's good news here, I'm told that Darnell Nurse is doing well. He's going to miss some time. He's going to miss at least a few games, but it could have been far worse. I mean, the optics of what we saw, not just the hit, but then you see him there with the blood inside the visor. I mean, it was a tough scene across the board. So good news for Darnell, because by all accounts, he'd been playing pretty well for the Edmonton Oilers, and he's certainly had his share of criticism over the years. Aside from the hit, Ray, fairly decent hockey game, right? You've got the star power on both sides, and I would say for the most part it was there in Toronto on Saturday night. Connor McDavid scores, but he was dashed 3 in that game. Nyes and McMahon continued to impress their head coach and Craig Berube. Mitch Marner continuing to have a strong year. But when you watch how you think the Maple Leafs and how Craig Berube wants them to play, are we starting to see more and more of that in the type of play that you're getting from McMahon and Nyes?
Well, they're two options that weren't available a couple of years ago. I mean, what coach doesn't like big guys that can skate and that can play and can move the puck? Like McMahon is found money, right? That is a later developing draft pick, who he's big and powerful and scored a beautiful goal when he just I think a lot of things were showcased there, Dregs, when he got up the ice there, right? The size, you see that anyway, but the speed and the hands to make a decision and a play to score. I like Nyes a lot. I think Nyes is really good. And what if half of your left wingers are those two young guys? That sets you up for today and tomorrow in a really nice way. I like them a lot. As far as the team playing the way Berube wants them to, some days yes, some days no.
Exactly.
The problem is we all want this consistency game to game. There's too many bloody games to have that because there's going to be days you get there and you got nothing. You look in your gas tank. I used to discuss, I'd have a discussion with my legs in warm up, and I'd be skating around, and I'm like, "Come on,
let's go,
let's get going." And sometimes the word back was like, "Not tonight,
not tonight,
not tonight."
This would have been a game on Saturday. I mean, the management groups for all the teams in the Four Nations face-off are paying close attention. Obviously, they've got a roster deadline that's coming up early December. And for Canada, this would have been targeted on their radar, right? Edmonton is in Toronto for a myriad of reasons. We're going to scout this game heavily. And I feel like even though it's only days away where they submit their rosters, right, it's still a bit early for us to start chewing on individual players. However, Evan Bouchard's name has been out there. Morgan Riley's name has been out there as potentially being in the mix on that Canadian blue line. There's talk of Zach Hyman, of course, because of the chemistry and the history he has with Connor McDavid. What about Stu Skinner in the goalie mix and all of that? Are you seeing it from either Riley or Evan Bouchard that they would be written in pen on that blue line, or more so in pencil on that Canadian blue line?
Well, this will sound funny, but I think I'm probably closer to pen on Bouchard than Riley.
Okay.
Bouchard when he makes a mistake, he doesn't fool around. He's going to make
a big
one. Oh my! And so that would always give any coach, especially in a short little tournament, would give them pause, because you're like, what if in the big moment he just fogs out and makes one of those major mistakes? If you remember back to the 2010 Olympics, which I can't believe is 14 years ago, remember when they had Drew Doughty on the team, and he wasn't going to play a little bit, or he was just going to play a little bit, and then pretty soon they're like, "Oh my God, he's on the ice all the time." And one of the reasons is that in the big moment, in his makeup, he just doesn't make a big mistake. And he didn't when he was young either, which was crazy. Like how he just, I think that's the spot where everybody went, oh my God, this guy's really a great player.
Yeah.
And so Bouchard doesn't give me that comfort. Like I go back to the finals last year. Now he was playing 28 minutes a game, like huge load. He got beat a couple of times in that final where he was either just completely overworked, which is probably likely, but he gets beat. But I think he's probably there. I get to like I said, I'm closer to Penn on him than not.
Okay.
I think Morrissey would be in front of Riley for me.
Yeah.
And they to me seem like two guys that would be angling for the same sort of spot. And I would have Morrissey in front of Riley. How about out of left field, John Tortorella saying, "I hope Hockey Canada is looking at Travis Sanheim."
Yeah, I saw that.
And I thought that's pretty interesting the way he lobbies a little bit for his guy who he didn't really have a great feel for when he took the job. But Sanheim's a really good player, and I would say Canada's got good decisions to make on the blue line, and in goal, they're I don't know, like I don't even know. Like I hear Binnington's got the inside track, and as we all hear, and then what about Skinner? Sure, but Logan Thompson, would you consider him? Like there's like all of a sudden you don't have anybody that just kind of goes, yeah, that's your goalie and will fill in behind. And each of the other three teams in the Four Nations, they're not really thinking with too much bother about their goalie. They're gonna have a good one in there.
Right. And I think from a Canadian perspective, that's what makes, the positional players, certainly on defense and maybe up front too, that much more important, right? You're going to have to play an NHL style of game. And if for no other reason, maybe there is some goalie protection that is going to be required here.
Well, I don't see any way you can look at it otherwise. I mean, of the four, if you're going to rank the goalies in this tournament, Canada's fourth.
Yeah. All right. We'll have much more on this, by the way, as the roster information starts to percolate. We'll dive deeper into this on the Ray and Dregs podcast.
Good word. Percolate.
I like it. Yeah, that's a good one. Elias Petterson, Raymond, 4 goals in 5 games. So it's got a good bad theme to it here. So if we're looking at the Vancouver Canucks, what has changed in his game that is making him more productive in the last 5 games?
I don't care how much skill you have. If you don't have a work rate, if you don't have an engagement, you're just a portion of what you can be. And for whatever reason, at the beginning of the year, he was lugging around baggage. He was lugging around, weight. He looked slow. He looked indecisive, which I don't get because he's really a very, very top end player. He just signed his new contract that was going to kick in. Like there was no reason for him to play like he was in the doldrums, which is exactly what it looked like. And I would say in the last 2.5, 3 weeks, there's been little bit small incremental steps, and you're like, he's starting to get there. He's been outstanding in the past, I'd say 2 weeks, 10 days, 2 weeks for sure. Excellent again last night. Well, this weekend he was really good, and he somehow fell into this position of like he wouldn't shoot the puck. And he's got a great shot, and I think a lot of people were pumped last night that he powdered a one-timer, and it might seem elementary, but man, that was a good moment. That's a good moment for him too. So he's playing well, but we're gonna balance it here with JT Miller, I assume, right?
Yeah, and so he played less than 12 minutes in that loss against Nashville. 2 shifts in the third period, and afterwards, Rick Tocchet basically said, "Well, he wasn't a player that I thought could help us." I mean, essentially, that's what he said, right? Post game, what's going on?
Yeah, well, he was hurt in training camp. slowish start, started to come on a little bit. Then he took a face-off one game, like I think it was the opening face-off of the game, and he buckled.
Yeah.
And so then there was a time when clearly he was playing with some kind of injury. Tocchet said last night that's not the case for last night's game. But they gave up a power play goal and one of the Stamkos power play goals, and he was slow to react, and it wasn't a good look. 5-on-5, he looks a little bit like Pettersson looked 3 weeks ago, like just heavy, slow, not reacting. If you remember last year, Miller was the absolute engine of that team.
Oh, for sure.
And both, so right now I would say in Vancouver, there's a number of issues, but if this is their bad stretch of the season, then they're probably in good shape. But Kevin Lankinen's fallen back to 900 save percentage, which, by the way, most of the league is. It's pretty rare now, guys that are way in front of that. So they missed Demko, and you knew that was going to happen. Eventually, Demko was going to be greatly missed, and he's getting closer, but they miss him. Hughes looks frustrated right now. He plays a lot. He plays in every spot for them, and it looks like he's pressing to produce, to help. And sometimes the more you try, the worse it gets. Last night he had a uncharacteristically difficult night with the puck. I mean, fabulous player, but he could probably take a half a breath here, and it would probably help him. And then up front, they can't seem to get Pettersson and Miller going at the same time. And without Besser, it's like anybody. You take away your number one trigger man, and you're going to miss him. And they miss. You can get by for a game or two or without any great player, but when you miss your best trigger guy, it's gonna bite you, and that's kind of where they're at. They got down 4. They were up 2-1, down 4-2, made it 4-3, and that's as close as they can get. I will say, between the benches, every once in a while, there's a game that's a little bit nasty, and lots of chirping. And so last night, from the playoff series last year to, McCarron's got lots to say for Nashville, and Sherwood was barking back at his old team. And so there was a lot of between the benches stuff. So I guess there was this one time the linesmen were there. It was at a commercial. There was a whole bunch of guys milling around, and I'm listening, and I got my earpiece off, so I'm just listening. It's good. I miss it, right? Like I really do. And Gus Nyquist kind of wedges his way over, and he leans over the boards. He goes, "You like this, eh?" And I said, "Oh, I love this." I said, "I love this, Gus." I said, "This is my favorite part right here. It's the best part of the job." So,
and they were just chirping. I mean, just trying to get on.
Yeah. Each side in those things. Of course, there's a lot of FUs.
Sure,
but there's also a lot of talking about if somebody's got a bad stat. Generally, somebody on the other team knows about it. Yeah. And they start talking about how much they suck, which that was right up my alley. Colby Armstrong says you go through the game notes to find out who the tough guys are. I used to go through the game notes and go, who's having a tough time? Yeah. And that's like jet fuel. Like that was my favorite.
Well, who isn't having a tough time? Ovechkin.
Oh boy!
Come on, hat trick for Ovi. So he's tied for the NHL lead in goals with 13, on pace for 63, which is ridiculous, of course.
Right. It's only 30 short, right?
I know.
30 short.
And when we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, we threw in the disclaimer, like he's going to force us to revisit his goal march. Of course he is, right? But it's the group, right? Connor McMichael having a ridiculous year to start for the Washington Capitals. We had Spencer on the podcast a couple of weeks ago. He's bubbling with enthusiasm and all of that. And maybe it's the sum of the parts. And obviously in our world, we focus on Ovechkin for the obvious reason, right? The goal count. But maybe it's time to recognize that this team is better than maybe a lot of people thought they'd be at this point, at least going into the year.
Yeah, you know what, Dregs? I thought I call them the most curious of playoff teams last year. There was no stat you would look at and go, yep, absolutely. That's why they were a playoff team. Like, no chance. Right. You'd look at them and go, I don't get it. Anyway, they made it. And then I thought they had a really good offseason, a really strong offseason. They added 6 or 7 players. They brought in Logan Thompson. They traded Darcy Kemper. They brought in Dubois, who they've really liked in kind of a secondary role. Who's been awesome for them is Dylan Strome. He's been fantastic. So when we talk about Ovi, though, when Ovi was at his very best, he had Nick Backstrom. And Backstrom would deliver the puck to the place that Ovi could shoot it. And over the last couple of years, I think Dylan has figured out when's the best time to deliver it, when's the best time to carry it. Sometimes you got to shoot it, even though he's standing over there, and that's really hard to do because he's boring the bullseye on you that he wants the puck. But all that stuff said, there's one factor here that I think is the absolute difference between the last year's start and now. Well, since the All-Star game back, he got into shape. He was out of shape at the start of last year. He was plodding around the ice. He looked like a cement mixer. And he's so big. Like, you can't even believe how big he is.
Yeah.
And so, but he was slow and heavy and clunky. And then I think he got embarrassed. I really do. And he had a great second half last year, 22 goals in the last half. And now when I watch him skate, he's turned the clock back and now he's got a sniff, right?
Yeah.
Like it's there and you can tell he feels it. He made a back check last night. He came all the way back to the net and I think it was Barbashev that had an open net and he kind of leaned on him. And last year, he wouldn't have been able to do that because he would have been up at the blue line. And so I'm really impressed. And what's going to be cool? I hope he gets close this year. Yeah. And I hope that the league and Wayne Gretzky are right around the time he gets within 3 or 4 goals that Gretz is at the games. I'm pretty sure they will be. And he's been, as he always is, he's been the most gracious of guys around this. Hoping that Ovi gets to the record. Yeah, and you know what? It will be awesome for the league if Ovi gets within shouting distance this year.
Well, head of the class of the Greybeards, no question. In that class is Jonathan Quick, 38-year-old goaltender who, man, I mean, a 3 years ago, we're thinking, all right, he's at the end of the line here. He's starting to get passed around a little. Lands in New York, and last year had a tremendous season and really has picked up where he left off. So what has he got? 128 minutes and 5 seconds of an active shutout streak right now, and a save percentage this season of .970. I mean, I was going to say there's no way you could see this coming, or could you, based on how good he was last year, wire to wire?
Well, go back 1 year earlier, you mentioned he was going passed around. Remember, he was in that Columbus trade out of LA, and he ended up in Vegas. That year, Vegas had 5 goalies. And I remember asking Bruce Cassidy one game, it was late in that year, I said, who are your goalies today? Because we didn't know which 2 there was. Yeah. And he goes, I don't know. It's going to be whichever 2 guys are sitting behind the pads in the room. And Jonathan Quick was one of the guys. So last year, I noticed a couple of times when Quick would, in warm-up, the way he was received by the other goalies. Massive respect.
Boy.
And so I was like, wow, I didn't know that about him. I knew he's a ferocious competitor. Was he not the perfect goalie in LA? The way that LA played and they were battling and
good,
tough, and that was perfect for him. He's I think he's at 397 wins. He's played 30 games for the Rangers, 30 starts. He's got 22 wins. Yeah. He's been magnificent for them. Yeah. And so when I look at Jonathan Quick, I think of the Stanley Cups. I think of his longevity. I think Conn Smythe. I think of 400 wins, which he's going to get. Yeah. He's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Jonathan Quick's a Hall of Famer. Yeah. And he does it. He just kind of, if you watch him play, he's the most, I think I enjoy watching him play because he's the most unique goalie. Like the way he bounces around in there, and he's so powerful, fast. And I'm like, nobody else plays like that. He's got a little Hasek in him, right?
Yeah.
He's a little bit like Hasek. There's like, when Hasek was doing his thing, you're like, well, nobody plays like that.
Yeah.
And nobody plays like Quick. Nobody has, and nobody does. And he's been awesome. And he threw up another shutout last night.
Yeah, perfect environment for him too, right? With Igor there, he's obviously shouldering the majority of the load, but Quick can give you the starts that he's giving. And I mean, Peter Laviolette and the New York Rangers maybe didn't expect it, but they certainly couldn't ask for more than they're getting from Jonathan Quick. All right.
No, not at all. It's been a good fit, been a great fit.
Those are your headlines. Thank you to our good friends at Tim Hortons.
Holiday Smile Cookie is back November 18th to 24th. 100% of proceeds are donated to local charities, community groups, and Tim's camps. Buy a Holiday Smile Cookie to give back to your community.
Oh, see, so that just makes me hungry now, huh? That Smile Cookie.
And of course, though, with that cookie, you got to have your coffee with it.
Of course, yes.
Oh, come on.
Medium coffee, 1 milk. No. Got rid of the sugar.
Yeah. I remember I used to always go to the double-double. And then at some point I went, that's a lot.
That's
of everything. Of everything. Yeah. I'm just saying, one cream. There we go.
That's all you need. Time for Ask Ray and Dregs Anything, brought to you by Acon. With over 150 years in the construction industry, Acon has spearheaded some of the most notable projects across our country. From the iconic CN Tower to the Gardiner Expressway, St. John Seaway, the Expo Biosphere in 1967, Acon is one of Canada's original leaders in heavy industrial contracting, operating across North America, leading the way, building right what matters to enable future generations to thrive. All right, let's bring in Ryan Richog, the bureau chief.
Oh, there he is. Look at him. There he is. Oh,
look at he's got everything we don't have. What is that? Is that a got your back hoodie? Is that what that is?
Yeah.
I see the Ray and Dregs.
I
I
actually have these in the works. I have these in the works for Ray and Dregs too, and I believe you might even be able to buy them online on our website. We got a little swag happening there, a little store on the site. So a little
that's kind of neat, Dregs. I mean, 2 years and he's getting to it. Yeah. Solid effort, Ryan. Attaboy.
Yeah,
Dregs.
I didn't even know we had a website.
Yeah, we do. We do. Yeah, Randine runs it. She does a great job. She'll appreciate that comment. Are we still talking, Dregs? You and I are good? I thought maybe after yesterday. Wow. I don't know, Ray, like, you know how when you get chirpy with Dregs sometimes, you can kind of get a sense that you've really struck a nerve? And you know what his phrase is when you've really struck a nerve with Dregs and he's had it. I'm just going to go to my my text chain with him. We won't get into the details of it, but Ray, you know, right? You know, at a certain point it got to this. Whatever, buzz off.
Buzz off is the exclamation point to all of it.
When you get a buzz off from Dregs, he ain't playing anymore. He done.
No.
He done.
It was Ryan explaining to me that he thinks he knows better than the people that I was talking to around the Ryan Reaves suspension.
Just keeping him in check, Ray. I was just keeping him in check a little bit. But you know you're in the penalty box really with Dregs.
Can I ask you a question? Yeah, why would you do that? Why would you engage that honestly, and then push it along?
Yeah, I was laying around yesterday. I didn't have any pods to do. I was kind of bored, to be honest.
That's
with you. I just
exactly
was
what it was.
I'm gonna poke Dregs.
One thing I think we do need to chat about. The Grey Cup was yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
We had top-notch We had top-notch security at the game, and my buddy my producer from ESPN says, "Look at those Canadian police gently escorting the intruder off the field."
The naked intruder, the nude intruder. That was a classic moment. So we got some great submissions here for Ask Ray and Dregs. And by the way, people can go to the website rayanddregs.com. There's a spot there where you can put your submissions in, and we want to hear from you. So send us your specific questions. Can be hockey related, can be related otherwise on the website, and then a bit of yoga content coming up as well, guys. But let's start with Mario in Toronto, who says, with no goals, just 4 assists in his 9 games, do you think it's less likely Connor Bedard makes Team Canada for the Four Nations face-off? While he's likely to be an Olympian after another full year of experience, does it make sense to leave him off that roster if his play doesn't warrant him making it? Appreciate the 2 shows every week. Thanks for all you do, Mario in Toronto.
Well, Mario, I didn't think he was going to be on the team. I think we talked about this 2 weeks ago. I thought he was going to be in pretty tough anyway. This stretch certainly is not helping. I did the game Saturday in Vancouver, and he's right now he looks lost. Actually, he looks. They're not a very good team. They never score.
Yeah,
he doesn't generate anything because I don't. Well, for 2 reasons. He doesn't really have a good fit to play with. There's not a strong offensive player to play with. And B is that he's doing the things young players do when they struggle to score. And so there's 5 players in the league as of Saturday that average over a minute a shift. He's one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's got to be cut like by a third.
Yeah.
There's no pace to his game. There's no get up and go. There's no danger. There's no threat. So I think if you look back to the World Championships last year, Connor was about a 13th forward, right? He didn't play very much at all. And I think there's always a tendency to push some of these guys ahead of where they are. And he's not, in my mind, he's not there.
Yeah, I'm with you. And a couple of weeks ago, I had time for the idea. I think it was Mike Johnson who put out his roster, and he had him listed as a 13th forward. And at the time, that might have been 3 weeks ago. I thought, okay, well, that's interesting from an experience perspective, thinking of the Olympics and all that. But you can't make this Team Canada roster by virtue of where you were drafted, right? And that men's worlds, Ray, to your point, that lingers. I feel like to this point of the NHL regular season, he had to show that there would be way more consistency in his game at the NHL level than what they saw at the men's world. So he's not on my team at this stage.
Okay, moving on to Rebecca in Vernon. Darren, I was curious about how you coordinate with the other insiders. Do you know who is working on what stories, and what happens if you have conflicting information? How do you decide who goes first in the segment? Longtime viewer of Insider Trading and listener of the pod. Keep up the great work, Rebecca in Vernon.
Yeah, I don't know this. See, I hope Rebecca is real, but this kind of has a Randine feel to it, like manufactured question. Is it?
No. Oh, look, you don't want to pull the curtain back, Dregs. Give the people what they want.
Yeah, look, I mean. So
no, the goat yoga stuff I'm about to do is manufactured, but this is real.
I learned a lot from Bob McKenzie, who was always the shop steward, right? He was the senior insider. So whatever Bob wanted to do, that's what Bob did. And the rest of us would just go, okay, Bob. Yeah, we'll do this. So now I'm Bob. So I get to play the heavy on the other 2 guys when warranted. But of course, we share information. We did this morning. We're recording this on Monday, Insider Trading on Tuesday and Thursday. And that 3-way swapping of information is it's a day-by-day process for sure.
Ray, I've wondered with you too, like you got so many contacts, you know so many people, you're talking to people all the time. Like you must stumble across information, then you're like, oh, Dregs would like this, or Dregs would know this, or whatever. You could probably be an insider if you wanted to. What do you do with your nuggets? You just swallow them, just like, nope.
No, I call him and say, hey, do you have any interest in this? And
yes,
there's lots that you come across that sometimes you're just in a conversation and, we're sitting around the rink and somebody will say something and you go, ooh, didn't know that. But the one thing I think I've learned, of the things I've learned over 20 years is sometimes the information you get because they want you to have it. And they want you to go talk about it. So it kind of defends their position or promotes a view that they want to get out there. And so a lot of it, I do anyway, I listen to it and I'm like, that's not for me to share. And it's like when you were in elementary school and you went with the paper and threw it over your shoulder. And so I got a basket over there full of that.
You know how many Vancouver Canucks tidbits or nuggets I get from Ray?
Zero.
Zilch.
How about, so yesterday I see we get a note that the Canucks called up their defenseman. They call him DPD because it's Elias Petterson. Well, they have Elias Petterson. They called up Elias Petterson. So we were around the house here. Cammie was getting ready to watch the Chiefs football because Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce, Kelce Brothers podcast. We got to watch the Chiefs every Sunday. And I go, hey, did you guys call up DPD? And she's like, oh yeah, I forgot to tell you. Like that was just yesterday. And I'm like, I got to prep in case the guy gets in the game. And she's like, oh yeah, I never thought of that.
Sorry.
Nothing.
I love it. I love it. All right, another one here. This one comes from Mark M. No location on this one, but the 93 playoffs. This question is for Ray. When your Islanders upset and eliminated the top-seeded Penguins to advance to the conference final and had to then face the Canadiens, who were in the midst of their historic stretch of overtime wins, 10 straight overtime wins, by the way, was there any talk within the team of not wanting to go to overtime with them or extra prep on how to play them if any game did go into extra time? Love the combination of information, banter, and stories. Keep up the great work. I don't miss an episode.
Oh, thank you for that. No, we didn't talk about it once. We were just so happy to beat Pittsburgh. We got to the end of the last four teams. I guarantee you this. So it was LA, Toronto, Montreal, and the Islanders. We all thought the other three teams sucked. Like we all thought, oh my God, we're going to win. Like we thought we could beat Montreal.
Yeah.
And I know Toronto felt they could beat the Kings, like for sure. Yeah. And as it turned out, that didn't happen. And so, Montreal, just think of that, 10 straight overtimes. We played them twice in overtime. In game two. Game two in Montreal, Pierre Turgeon had a breakaway in overtime and shot it over the net. Like our best player, Turge had come back and started to play after the Dale Hunter hit. He had a breakaway and he shot it over the net. They scored. Game three, Benoit Hogue, fantastic player. He had a breakaway and missed. That's how you win 10 straight overtimes. Like you get the breaks, the bounces, and then you capitalize. So we never thought about it. We felt we were right there, and then all of a sudden we were down 3-0 in the series. And you're like, well. Like it just, literally it was 8 days. And you're like, oh, we won game 4 and big deal. We lost game 5 and we were done. But that was, man, that bugged me. They kept winning in overtime. Then they get to the finals. And I was cheering for LA because I sure as hell didn't want Montreal to win. And yeah, it didn't happen.
All right. Thanks to Mark M for that submission. Okay. Before we get to the yoga question here, guys, lots of people are wanting to know what your thoughts were on the Jake Paul, Mike Tyson fight. The fact that it happened, if you watched, how you feel, Dregs, in general about its existence.
Well, I'm glad I didn't have to pay for it. I guess indirectly you did. I mean, you have a Netflix subscription you're paying, but halfway through the women's fight, the feed locked up, and so I didn't see it. I had to watch it the following morning, and I didn't watch it in its entirety. But I guess what's interesting to me is how it seems like the outcome was predetermined, pretty obviously. Now, the snippets that we're seeing of how hard Tyson trained and what he was doing, the footwork and all of that, and then a 58-year-old man shows up who looks like he hasn't thrown a punch in 15 years and gets beat by Jake Paul. So, as they say, it seems pretty clear the fix was in.
What do they say? Who was it? Remember the old Barnum and Bailey circus? And they, he started with "There's a sucker born every minute," and 77,000 people paid money to go watch that in Jerry World. And could it have been more predictable?
No.
like of course we watched it. Like we were a sucker. Like we sat there. When I was watching the women's fight, I'm like, the cut over her eye
was gross.
I was
vicious.
Like, who's gonna fix that? Like, what are they gonna do?
Great fight.
Like, are they gonna use rope? Like,
it was a fight of the night.
It was unbelievable. Like, it was an unbelievable fight. But as far as the Tyson Paul thing,
gruesome.
There's an old saying, I wouldn't go into my backyard to watch that fight, but I was in my yard, so I watched it, and a waste of time.
We all ended up kind of being suckers on that night. Jake Paul, Mike Tyson, 40 million, 20 million plus respectively. I don't think Jake Paul could care less how people were feeling because he's laughing, man.
Obvious.
He's the ultimate troll. Trolled us all out of our time and a bunch of people out of their money. Hey, he's an entrepreneur. Good on him. Okay, lots to talk about the GOAT yoga. So with that in mind, guys, I did a little research. Spent most of the week doing this.
Sure.
A few different types of yoga that actually exist. And I would like you guys to put your mind to this, and I would like you to pick one of these. You have to pick at least one that you are willing to try. Okay, so these are some other yoga. These actually exist. These are actually things. So first of all, we will start with yoga rave or rave yoga. Body paint, glow sticks, black lights, a combination of meditation and music creates a powerful spiritual journey. Involves a lot of dancing like normal raves, and the yoga aspects bring the participants back into balance and peace. So that's yoga rave.
Is there lingerie in that? Like, what the hell are you talking about there?
Just hang on, it gets better. Tantrum yoga. I'm kind of thinking about you for this one, Ray. This yoga class brings out your inner insolent child. You get to do yoga while kicking, screaming, stomping your feet like a child. This not only is important for your body because you're nourishing your body through the poses and breathing while you're also relaxing a lot. You'll find that you sleep better because you let all of your frustrations out. Sometimes it's good to just act like a little kid again. That's the promo for it. So tantrum yoga.
I don't know why you picked me for that one.
Yeah, no idea. The rest are fairly self-explanatory. I won't go into a lot of detail. There's stripper pole yoga. It's actually a thing. There is laughter yoga, where you work your way through the poses while forcing yourself to laugh. I think a kind of an abdominal exercise type thing. So lots of laughter.
You should get on that one.
Yeah. And then the last one, and this is a thing, and it can be co-ed or not, but nude yoga is another thing, and again, self-explanatory there. So your options: nude yoga, rave yoga, tantrum yoga, stripper pole yoga, or laughter yoga. Ray, you got to try something.
Okay, but hang on here. Like, so are there goats involved in all of it?
Yes. These are just the various types of goat yoga. Yes.
There's going to be no nudity with a goat wandering around.
Why don't we trust Ray to come up with that, Dregs? Can we combine goat yoga and nude yoga?
I mean, you guys can do whatever you want. Yeah. I mean, come on.
I'm not going to yell and scream. I'm not doing. I don't know how to do yoga. I don't know.
I think my marriage would end after 33 years if Holly and I participated in nude yoga. If she saw me from differing angles, I think that'd be it. She's like, I've had enough.
Did you remember the Seinfeld episode? He had a girlfriend that was a nudist, and he's like, there's good nudity and bad nudity. And they showed her like she's opening a pickle jar, and he's like grossed right out.
All right. Well, I'll let you off the hook. Goat yoga for both of you guys. Your next opportunity. That was Ask Ray and Dregs Anything, brought to you by our good friends over at Acon, who, by the way, Dregs are hiring. So if you are looking for a job across the board, go to acon.com.
Might need one.
Click on join our team. They're always looking for quality people.
Excellent. All right. Thank you, Acon. Let's get rid of Ryan.
Thanks for your research. Thanks for your research, Rashad. Beat it and get our hoodies ready, would you?
I will buzz off now. I am buzzing off.
Speaking of buzzing off, busy week, Raymond? My week's not bad. I mean, I've got some stuff going on, but work-related, not terrible. How about you?
Yeah, last of the Canucks homestand is Tuesday, so I get the Canucks tomorrow. We get Rangers. It's kind of cool when the Eastern teams come out west. I guess it would be same in reverse, but like when the Rangers come to Vancouver, it's a big deal. Yeah. You know, like the uniforms look so different. People love to come and watch them play. So it'll be, I would think it would be a good night in there. On Tuesday, Wednesday, I fly to Chicago for Florida and the Blackhawks. And then I'm done for a bit. So busy-ish week, but not unmanageable.
Yeah. I'm actually looking forward. We're recording on Monday. I want to see what sort of pushback we get from the Winnipeg Jets. We didn't talk about them today, but they take a couple on the chin in Florida, right? And then they've got the Panthers coming back tomorrow night, Tuesday night. So I'm doing a lot of hockey watching this week. No Leaf games, no regional games for me. So just insider trading and watching hockey. It's not a bad week.
Not bad at all.
No. All right, buddy.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Enjoy. Have a great week. Dregs, have a good week.
I'm going to try. And thank you to our sponsors who continue to support Ray and Dregs and make the podcast possible. Our title sponsor, Canadian Club Whiskey, Tim Hortons, and Acon. Have a good week, everybody. Stay safe.